Welcome to the Equipcast for the Archdiocese of Omaha. Designed to help leaders transform their cultures, to embody the pastoral vision, to be one church, encountering Jesus, equipping disciples, and living mercy.
All right, I'm Father Jeff Lloyd. Welcome to the Equipcast. I am joined with Jim Jansen here from the Office of Evangelization in Catechesis, and it's good to have you. Good to see you again. It feels like it's been a day since we've talked, but it feels like it's been 2 weeks since we've done this Equipcast.
Actually been together. Yeah, you're right. And we've apparently regressed like several months because at the time of recording, there's a lot of snow on the ground.
I know that's we just went back in time, but it's sunny here at 40th and Webster next to the cathedral. So it's good to see the sun out. Well, Jim, you have this, I'll just say you have this rambling rant that goes on, and I've heard it for 3 years now since I've worked with you about
and
best
we just
practices.
thought we'd record it, right, for everybody.
Yeah, just might as well get it on tape.
You can just hit play.
Or whatever that is in the cloud. I think they have tapes in the cloud. I don't know how it works, but yeah, finally we're going to record this rant that you've had for several years about best practices. And it sort of grates you, I get the sense. Mm-hmm. So this is my observation. This is a good one-on-one manager, supervisor feedback for you. I get the sense that you get really irritated when people talk about, we need to have best practices, we need to have best practices. And you keep saying, best practices aren't the best practice. There's got to be something more. There's something missing. And because we know, I think we've all tried it before, we've all tried some best practices in stewardship or some conversion engine like Alpha, or small groups. Said, okay, the best practice is we need to have food at our small group. Well, it didn't work. Like nobody showed up, but they told us we needed food, but nobody was there. So like this best practice isn't the best practice. So oftentimes we just drop it. Like, well, maybe it didn't work. Maybe that wasn't the best practice, or maybe it's not possible for our parish. It's just, it can be this really misleading thing that takes us down the wrong path. So I'll end my rant and let you move forward with yours.
Well, I think that's the heart. What you just said there is I hate seeing laborers in the vineyard get discouraged. I heard somebody once say that false expectations are just premeditated resentments. That when we have an expectation that isn't realistic, like, well, I'm just going to imply this best practice and everything's going to be fine. When we have false expectations, they end up becoming resentments because what we hope for never actually comes to fruition. And man, I hate seeing laborers in the vineyard get stuck and disappointed when they're like, yep, been there, done that. We tried that and it didn't work. And I feel like what we're going to talk about today really cuts across to every type of ministry. I mean, I don't care whether it's, you said this well, right? I don't care if it's an educational best practice, whether we're talking about an evangelization best practice, stewardship, really all forms of ministry struggle, I think, with this central idea, and that is trying a best practice is a little bit like planting a seed and paying no attention whatsoever to the soil that it's planted in. So I'll give like a personal example here. Some of you know I just ventured in, had a little agricultural adventure that's about a year old now. This is going to be a big spring for me because I planted fruit trees, apple trees and pear trees. And I was shocked to figure out like just how much work they were. And I mean, it's, I knew you don't just like plant an apple seed and, get apples the next year, but the labor to tend the soil, to put these these posts and support structures up to make sure that they don't grow over. I mean, they don't fall over. I actually had actually got fruit my first year because I was, planting a tree that was about a year and a half, 2 years old, and it actually had some pears on it. But I had to work really hard to stake things up and to tie it up so the pears didn't actually break the tree. Because as the fruit grew, it started to overload this young tree's ability to support it. And I think that could be an extended metaphor for us. We all want fruit. Again, educational, stewardship, whatever. Like we want changed hearts and lives. And when we see some other ministry, like, oh, this curriculum promises to change hearts and lives, or this retreat, or this methodology, or whatever it is. No, you just have to have pizza, and then the young people will come, right? Whatever it is, like when we see the fruit of changed lives, we immediately look to the best practice and think, okay, that's the cause.
Yeah, that's the silver bullet.
Yeah, but in fact, there's a lot of other stuff that has to be in play, right? This, again, leaning into the analogy, the soil type, the support structures, all those things have to be in play if we're actually going to produce any lasting fruit. So that I think is, I mean, I love like some of our veteran ministers. I see a lot of like, friendly faces and folks that I recognize. I think I love it when our pastors talk about this, because there's this kind of internal division in our hearts. Yeah, like we want a silver bullet. We want a quick fix. We want something easy that we can just do that's going to fix everything. But in our heart of hearts, we know that that's not enough. And I'm hoping we can have a conversation today to talk about like, okay, what are the other things that need to be in place so that we actually get that fruit that we desire? Because we have to, the Lord wants that too.
I think I have some examples. I just from my own experience of trying to start things, and then you look over at the next church next door, or you look over in Baltimore, and you see what goes on at the Church of Nativity that Father Michael White has. He wrote the book, Rebuilt, and you just think, okay, well, they have, what do they do differently? Oh, they did the ME25, which is the Gallup sort of engagement survey.
Yes.
And they're even mentioned in the book, like the Growing an Engaged Church book. And so as much as I believe in engagement and all that stuff, like it wasn't just like they did a survey and all of a sudden their church just was transformed. It was a part of a larger thing. So the best practice is to survey your people, see how they're doing, make sure they're engaged based on these 12 elements of engagement that Gallup really recommends. But I'm not naive enough to think that that's the only thing you need. But I think oftentimes we do fall into that trap of, you could easily you could tune in, you could go to the website. First of all, you could go to the website at Church of Nativity in Baltimore, and you could see, oh, I just need a better website. And that's what's helping that parish. They're actually building a new church. Like they've expanded so much that in this day and age, they said,
when everybody else is losing attendance, and everybody, it's like, like some of our parishes, they've been doing social distancing before it was required because everybody could easily sit 6 feet apart.
Yeah, so best practice is to do the ME25 survey. The best practice is to have a really engaging website. The best practice is they do contemporary music. Oh, we need this kind of music. And those best practices in isolation really lead to resentment, like, because it's just, you become disappointed and you fall into this illusion that, oh yeah, we just need that. And it almost never works. The only thing, I think when you do alpha, you do it really, really well, and the pastor's engaged in it, and many of your key leaders engaged, alpha can actually be contagious. It can spread throughout the rest of your parish. But I think what you're trying to get at is there's more than a best practice. It's about a culture that you build, or it's this best practice within a larger framework. It's planting a seed within a larger framework of gardening.
Yeah, well,
that's what you're saying.
Yeah, so let's talk about culture, because that's a great example. If culture is what we celebrate and what we tolerate, culture is either going to have this accelerating effect on a program or a ministry that we run, or it's going to be this toxic thing that is secretly sucking the life out of what we hope for from, again, pick it was an educational initiative or a stewardship initiative or an evangelization initiative. So I'll give you an example from religious education. If we do some nights, if we do parent nights to engage the parents, and we have some good food, and we try and bring them in, and we've got like an engaging guest speaker. If that is a radical exception to a culture that basically enables parents to just drop their kids off and that unintentionally sends the message, please leave it to the professionals, don't try this at home. Like, if that's the cultural feel of our religious education programs, no matter how good the food is for a parent night, we're never going to engage parents as deeply as we want. There's a culture there that is tolerating parental disengagement. And unless we can begin to shift that culture, the coolest parents' night in the world aren't going to really grab their hearts. Right? It's like soil that's poisonous.
Yeah. I have been reading this book. It's not Rebuilt, but they wrote another book, from this parish in Baltimore, Church of Nativity. And the book is about fundraising, or not fundraising as much as like funding the mission. I can't remember the name of it, but if you just do the Amazon search for Father Michael White or Rebuilt Church, you'll find it. But just in the first couple chapters, he says that culture is a potent brew of knowledge, belief, and behavior. And
I like that.
And so we're kind of mixed it. Like, so what he found when he got into his parish, he could do all these nice things and good things that were best practices, but the culture was so dysfunctional and really not a missionary culture whatsoever. Perhaps not even a Christian culture. He really kind of slams the whole previous administration. Hopefully that pastor's dead, because I would hate for him to have to read many of those things. But
yikes! Yeah,
I mean, I don't hope that somebody's dead. That's not what I'm saying. But you know what?
I know. I was just thinking, it's like, wow, he just said, I hope he's dead. But as a way of being kind.
Yeah, I just hope he didn't have to read that. It'd be better to be dead than have to read that. And I'm sure it's not that previous pastor's fault, because that is the culture that we live in. In many ways, our churches are experiencing it. It's not just, that pastor's fault. I have been a pastor. I have pastored a dysfunctional culture before, or I've been an associate pastor, and hopefully we've kind of moved it around and shifted things, because we changed our beliefs, we changed our behaviors, and we changed our knowledge. But you kind of have to get at the heart of things. I think probably what we experience right here locally, and many of our leaders who may experience it, they might experience like. I think you have a lot of people who are doing small groups now, the small group initiative that you and your office have been putting on. We would say small groups is a best practice for engaging and helping people grow in discipleship. We've seen it successful in Focus. We've seen, it's successful in the evangelical churches. It's successful in Acts 2. Yep. So it's kind of been around a while.
It's got a good pedigree.
Yeah, it's successful in Curcio or CEC, all those things. But I think it'll probably die out unless somebody is saying this is part of a bigger structure, like it's part of a discipleship model or program.
Well, and I would say leadership too, right? So if we look at like culture is just kind of below the surface, right? It's that soil that the tree is trying to go in. Leadership is a little deeper in that, like, I totally believe, but small groups it's not just a best practice, it's like the best of the best. And yet small groups can totally go awry and stagnate and die if there's not leadership. I mean, there has to be real leadership for any best practice to continue and to flourish. And I mean, I think of a couple examples. A lot of people are familiar with the program That Man Is You. And one of my first years, or relatively new to a parish, before I came to the Archdiocese, I was part of That Man Is You. And I was amazed. I mean, there were like 60 guys up at 5:30 a.m. having donuts, going through these videos before they went to work. And they had small groups as a part of it. They had pretty dynamic presentation in these videos and these questions before people broke up into the small groups. And you could see that the lights were going on these people. I mean, they were just really, the guys were really being impacted. And then they went to the second year series, and they went from like 50 the first year, and then they went down to 30. And then they did it one more time, and then they were down to 10. And then they couldn't do it anymore, and it died. It went for 3 years, and then it totally disappeared. And then whenever anybody would talk about, well, what if we did something for the men of the parish? People who were involved with that, who had gotten a little bitter, said, no, we've been there, we tried that, And to be clear, there was nothing wrong with that man as you. The problem was nobody was ever raised up as a leader. And the guys who were responsible for getting up at 4:30 to go get the donuts were like, I'm kind of tired. There was no succession plan of leaders. Nobody was being developed. The impact that these men were experiencing in their small groups and in that time in the mornings, no leaders were there to walk with them and capitalize on that. And I'm sad to say, I think that's the typical MO, but there's a notable exception, which I think proves the rule. St. Mary's in Bellevue, our very, very own Mary Bell in Nebraska. They're that man is you. I don't know what year they're on, but they have been going for a long, long time. And they're continuing with great numbers. And the secret sauce is a guy named Deacon Ted Menzel, right? And of Equipcast fame, Mark Nelson, he used to work for St. Mary's in Bellevue. Like they took the opportunity and they developed men as small group leaders, and they met with the people afterwards, and they supplemented what they were doing with their retreat to take people deeper. And it was their leadership that made all the difference. And even more of a testimony to their leadership, even now that Mark has moved on, the program continues to flourish and grow because they called other people into leadership. It didn't
but it's
all
almost
stay
like
on them.
Like a culture of leadership too. Like,
Yeah.
I think what was built in probably fairly early was we need to develop leaders, and then we need to develop new leaders. We can't just rely on kind of the first crew. We have to have the second layer of leaders. We have to keep thinking about who are going to be the next leaders. So I always think it's as much as we say that there's other parts of this tree, like there's leadership or there's structure or there's some other things, vision, those are all important. Of course, we'll have a chance to talk about them all.
Yeah.
But I think the culture is the potent brew. Like it is. But how do you create the culture? Well, leadership, vision, structure. But I can just think of, again, like Alpha is another great example, or Discovering Christ, which I think many of our listeners are familiar with, because it's many of them have tried it and they're doing it. And I think a lot of them are doing it well throughout the Archdiocese. Really, that stuff began after the vision was cast for the Archdiocese of Omaha to encounter Jesus, equip disciples, live mercy. And so, okay, what are we going to do to help people to grow in discipleship, to help them encounter Jesus? So, well, let's do Alpha. Let's do Discovering Christ, and which is awesome. But I think a lot of parishes probably have experienced a really big first year, but then maybe some dwindling numbers for a variety of reasons. So they could even do it perfectly. But I would say, first of all, there's a culture of Alpha. I know more about Alpha than I do about the other one, but there's a best way to do Alpha. There's Father Mallon talks about there's 10 different ways to kill Alpha in your parish. Yeah. So that's a podcast you can listen to on Divine Renovation.
Yep, highly recommended.
Highly recommended. Yeah, because so there's best ways to do Alpha. And I would say a lot of parishes probably aren't even doing the best ways. They've already found ways to kill it accidentally. But I think a lot of pastors have probably been experiencing, well, this thing isn't working, or I can't get it's another thing I have to get volunteers for, and I don't have anybody to help. And so there's already a culture there that's sort of missing the idea that I have to form new leaders who need to form new leaders who need to form new leaders.
I mean, leadership, or put another way, disciples who have matured to the point that they're actually missionary disciples, like that's the currency that our parishes run on. I mean, you can pay professionals, you can buy all the best programs and ministries and try and apply best practices. And without a missionary disciple to implement it, it's going nowhere. I mean, and
say your premise again. The currency the church runs on is...
Yeah, the currency the church runs on is missionary disciples.
Money helps.
Money helps, right. but ultimately, I mean, let's look at the fruitfulness of you. I think you brought this up last time. The German church is rich. The underground church in China is poor. The Church of Acts of the Apostles, very poor. No institutions, no buildings, no tax money, no religious freedom, on and on and on. They didn't even have a complete copy of the scriptures. But the Church of Acts of the Apostles and an underground church of China smokes us in fruitfulness, in the fruit we desire, because they are full of disciples with missionary hearts.
Yeah, so it's a culture.
I dropped the mic, but the mic is in my laptop, and
yeah.
I don't want to drop the.
Yeah, so the best practices, again, all have to fit into a larger picture.
Yeah.
A culture, and the culture is going to be developed by what you celebrate and what you tolerate, and
yes.
and I think this, and it has a lot to do with leadership and who's communicating that. But I think the other ingredient to your tree is vision. So
yes,
when you planted the seed, you said my preferred future is that I have a tree that bears fruit.
Yeah,
and if I never have a vision, why even plant the seed?
Yeah, I mean, so you alluded to, right? So you alluded to the interesting thing happened here in the Archdiocese of Omaha, right? For all of our friends in the underground church in China who are listening, about 3 years ago, Archbishop Lucas and a small group of trusted advisors did a lot of prayer and listening and reflection, and really charted a vision for the future. Focused on culture. Interesting thing, when you read the vision and priorities, it is create a culture of encountering Jesus and equipping disciples, a culture of unity, a culture of mercy. And that vision has already affected and changed the culture of the parishes. You mentioned so many, not that it's been perfect, but so many parishes have begun new initiatives to foster people's encountering of Jesus, precisely because of the vision and priorities. There was no mandate. There was no, it was just this kind of organic thing, that the vision itself, what if we were a place where when people came to us, they encountered Jesus? That caught people, that vision of that destination, having parishes with cultures like that captured people's imagination, and they just immediately began to go out and start best practices, ministries and programs that were designed to foster conversion. And that's the power of a vision. When you give people a picture of, here's where we're going, right? Here's why we exist. That's powerful stuff. And if you don't have a vision, or you have a really fuzzy vision, man, that's every best practice and program needs that in order to flourish. Again, let's take a stewardship one, right? Like if you put the best rhythm and articulation around your stewardship practices, you have a nice calendar and you're inviting people in and you're doing all of the kind of the, best practices of stewardship and development. But your culture is one where you're pursuing people's giving only on their in their social, right? Their social income and their disposable income, and you're not going deeper. And actually, no, we actually have a vision here that this community is going to change the world, and your financial giving is just a part of enabling that to happen. That we have a dream here that everybody is a disciple of Jesus Christ, and our giving is just an overflow of that. Like if your invitational landscape to financial commitment is clouded with candy bars and magazines and other fundraisers, and people aren't actually being invited to give as an overflow of their love for Christ and their life as a disciple, that without that vision, without that culture in place, all the best practices in the world aren't going to really bear any lasting fruit.
Yeah, I've just been thinking about, it's easy well, maybe it's not easy. It hasn't been easy for me in my current position where I'm not the pastor. There's another guy who wears a little red hat and carries a stick around. He's the pastor. I know that feeling of being like, oh, I get it. Wouldn't it be great if we could do this? Wouldn't it be great if we could do that? And feeling sort of stuck in third or fourth positions, or, whatever, second chair. Like, I'm not, and not that the Archbishop is against these things. But I certainly I've been itching to be in charge. Not that I want to be the bishop, but I'm itching, but I'm just feeling for some of the people, pretty much all the people who are tuned in today. Right. I don't think we have any pastors on. I haven't really checked, but we have some people who are, everybody's a leader here. I know that. Right. And so we have a sphere of influence for sure, or we can lead. Mm-hmm. We can change the culture. We can change the vision. We can change our beliefs about that wherever we have some influence. That's for sure. So I don't want to make it feel like it's hopeless, but I do wonder if some people are listening and thinking, "Oh, there's Father John Norman's on." Thanks, Christine. But I was actually thinking about Christine. Like, Christine is French. She's the chaplain at campus minister at Scott Catholic High School, and just thinking, well, that's a machine. Like, she's got an office there. It is sort of at the heart of the building. And it's not that Scott is a bad school by any stretch of the imagination. It's really amazing, and the things are happening there. But it's like, how does Christine have, how can she do this? Like, I'm sure she has a dream of the whole school is producing missionary disciples left and right, and she only has so much influence.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, for all of us, right? Big institutions sometimes can make us feel really powerless. We're like, oh crap, I can't change this. And the key, here's the irony. Like, the key is small groups of people with a shared vision and a shared culture. So all of there are people who they're paid millions of dollars to advise hospitals on how they can change their safety practices. And what they recommend is one floor at a time, one shift at a time. You find a group of doctors and nurses that are willing to embrace this new safety practice, and you just get them. And so for all of those here, like, everybody here has their own little tribe, their own little sphere of influence. And to influence that little pocket of culture, like, create a vision for that small little group, your family, your team, your little group of coworkers, and create a vision there and create a culture there, because that can be replicated. But trying to change everybody at once, like, this is not the way people work. We tend to move in herds. So start with a few around you and move forward that way.
I think the vision is important too. In your own sphere of influence, it's also important that so that you have a vision, so you know what to stop doing.
Oh, well, how do you know what to take on a journey and what to leave behind unless you know where you're going? I mean, vision is the destination. Where are we headed? And if you know where you're headed, I'm going on a hunting trip this weekend with my 13-year-old boy, Josh. And because it's a hunting trip, right, and because there's snow on the ground now, I mean, sandals are not good. I don't need to worry about the sandals. There's a lot of things that I can immediately rule out from my packing list because I know where we're going and I know what we're doing. And the same thing's true of our communities.
You're a man of metaphors. That is why you have one of your strengths is communication. I think you're right. So I will think of, since Christine let me know that Father Norman is here, Father Norman is in a difficult position. So Father Norman is out there in Antelope County and a little bit of Holt. Mm-hmm. That's about 2.5 hours west of Omaha. Mm-hmm. And, many people know in pastoral planning, we had to kind of adjust things, do a reorg of resources, primarily our priests. And mm-hmm. so he was willing to take on kind of a big circle out there. It's right now, he's got 6 churches and he's about to get, what is it? Yeah. 2 more. Yeah. 6 churches and he'll get 2 more. And he's good help there for sure. So now basically we just handed him a bunch of really difficult circumstances and structures that he has to work through, and that now he has to think, well, how am I supposed to, the trip I want to go on is I want this church to be fruitful. I want to make missionary disciples, but I've got all these things in the way now. Like, I got to worry about I've got like 6 different budgets I have to work on. I have 6 different finance councils. I have 6 different HR problems. I have 6 different, go down the line. And that I do feel for him in that, but I also think the most important thing in that is to make sure you have the eye on the prize. Look ahead, look at where you want to go, and you'll figure out what needs to get out of the way, what needs to be delegated, what needs to be either just taken care of right now in order to get where you want to go. Otherwise, and it's hard, like Father Hastings, who's our vicar of clergy, and we're on Archbishop's leadership team together. He often says, I think the way I'm wired is I jump from A to Z. So I know where I'm at today, and I'll constantly think about where I want to be at the end. That's just, I have futuristic as one of my strengths. Father Hastings thinks from A to B, and he freely admits it, and he owns it and loves himself in that way, and I love myself in my way. But he is achiever. Like well, what's next? I don't think about B, I think about Z. And I think, well, we'll figure out B and C. So I understand, like, it might be a little bit easier for me to kind of get excited about vision than that preferred future than that it is maybe for other people. So, but I think, we all have to live out of our strengths. And so I'll just do my best to just keep painting a picture for people. Like, what if those churches were producing the fruit of missionary disciples that were changing lives, and we're producing no priests, and we never have to do this pastoral planning thing again.
Well, Father, I would say there's a hierarchy to some of these elements, but I think you can come at it from a variety of perspectives. Meaning, for some people, we talked a little bit. You alluded to the structures there. For some, because the structures are so tangible. Again, you think about like the branches on the tree. Is there a support structure in place to sustain the fruit? As lives are impacted, is there a relational network around them? Are there routines, even the physical surroundings, and you can understand structures a variety of ways. Are those things in place so that when people's lives are changed, that they have what they need around them to continue to grow and flourish? For some people, those structures are the most obvious things in the world to them because of the way their minds are orientated and the way they're made. They recognize the gaps there, and they can very quickly make the remedy to those things. But to say, again, the structures, those are resting on a culture, and that culture is really resting on a vision, right? That at the deepest level, and you're very much a kind of a natural visionary leader, Father Lorik. Like you recognize vision, and I know when we hang out, the best way for me to bore you is to start to talk about details. I can. That's not the way your mind works. You can see the future almost. And
let's be clear. I might be a visionary leader with quotation marks around it, but I kind of stink at getting things done. But I have, thankfully I have other people in my life that can help me to pull those things off, which anyway, I don't want to make it sound like he's a visionary leader. He's like, I suck in a lot of ways. Yeah. Let me be clear. I suck in a lot of ways.
Yeah. This is partially the reason why I think one of the structural elements that is often lacking is some sort of shared leadership or teams, because nobody's a perfect leader. Nobody is perfectly well-rounded. And in fact, when you look at like great leaders through history or through organizations, like they're actually exceptionally unbalanced people. They're really good at a few disciplines, and they have people around them that help fill in their gaps and complete them. And so, if we want to, we can think about structure just from the perspective of, do you actually have some teams and some other people around you that complement your particular gifts and your charisms and help make the leadership of the organization or the particular ministry sustainable.
But also to make the vision come true.
Right.
It's the structure of the people around you. That's what you're talking about, right? When you're talking about structure,
yeah,
you're talking about the things that are supporting for the fruit to happen.
Well, I mean, super practical. Like when something goes wrong, does everybody answer to Father? Because if that's the case, Father's putting out fires all day long. And unintentionally, we've often created implicit or explicit organizational charts where everybody answers to the pastor. And what that means is whenever anybody needs help, they have to go to the pastor. And there's a precious few who appreciate that. Like they like the attention, they like the authority, but it gets exhausting really quickly. And it's unsustainable because you can't sustain the fruit. I mean, again, it's like when every decision has to come through one person, that branch breaks pretty quickly and we lose the fruit. And I think that's what's happening. I don't think Jesus and the Spirit are any less active in our parishes than the Acts of the Apostles or other great periods of renewal in history. But I think part of it is and maybe it's an American thing, I don't know, but we kind of buy into this John Wayne all alone sort of hero thing, and we break ourselves trying to do ministry all alone. And if we leaned a little bit more into our understanding that there are many parts in one body, we could sustain, I think, some of the grace and the fruit that the Lord is giving, but that frankly, I think is just lost.
During this quarantine time, I have been rewatching and watching some of the newer episodes of Star Wars, and that's become very clear that everybody has a part to play for the defeat of the Empire or whatever. I don't geek out on it too much. I just noticed those things of okay. I don't want to spoil it.
Since we're there, I know.
But I know Father Cook would really appreciate
the
this.
Good guys win.
Well, kind of sometimes. I don't know. But yeah, Luke might be the spark of hope, but he's part of a larger. None of that would happen unless somebody actually did something. I think there's. I know Father Cook from Christ the King has many, many homilies just waiting to come out.
And what? I think part of what captures our imagination about any great movie like that, somebody I see some Lord of the Rings shout outs too, whether it's Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, notice how often the hero is unexpected, right? In Star Wars, it's often R2-D2, the shortest, or the Ewoks or whatever. It's there's this unexpected hero that saves the day. And same thing, right, in Lord of the Rings. I mean, I don't know if it's a height thing, whatever. I mean, the hobbits, but there's these unexpected heroes that show up. And again, back to our previous kind of conversation, if you're like, oh man, who am I? I'm not a king. I'm not a great swordsman. I'm just a campus minister. No, actually, part of the reason I think those movies speak to our hearts is they show the power of just a faithful contribution. Okay, so somebody's not a fan of Ewoks. Anyway, they show the power.
They were essential.
Yeah. Anyway, they show the power, right, of even the smallest and the littlest playing their role.
So here's what I think, Jim, is that you just titled this thing, because this was your idea, Best Practices Don't always work, or best practices aren't always the best practice. This was just an excuse so you could talk about leadership, culture, vision, and structure, which is really about team leadership.
Right.
This was just an excuse about talk about those things, right?
You got me. Well, so here's full disclosure. I understand at some level why people get scandalized, wondering, gosh, why all the attention on leadership and culture and structure, and just give me the dang program and tell me what I'm supposed to do. I sympathize with that. except for that when you scratch a little bit deeper, and anybody who's been in ministry for more than a couple days is like, oh, okay, I get it. Because everybody's been there where they tried the cool thing, they tried the new curriculum, they tried the program, and it didn't work. And if the Lord uses our conversation at all here, I hope what he does is he provides a little bit of an epiphany. So people are like, oh, okay, that's why it didn't work. And so I want to leave people maybe with some questions. Like, what are some best practices that you tried? You're like, I've been there, done that. It didn't work. If you do a little postmortem, right? You do a diagnostic here. Could it be that one of these elements was missing? Could it be that it was all on you and you didn't have a team around you and there wasn't structure to support the good things that God did? Or could it be that there was a culture that was, that was at odds with what you were trying to do? Or maybe more pertinent, like, what are some current practices that you're implementing right now that are at risk because of the lack of structure or leadership?
Yeah, those are good questions. It's not homework. You don't have to turn it in or anything like that, but you're more than welcome to
read it.
With a buddy, with a pal.
Yeah.
Have a discussion. Or my guess is that people already have been thinking about this the whole time. Like, wow, I've tried a lot of things which I thought I did them well, and they didn't work. And so maybe I shouldn't try it again, or maybe I need to just to see what was missing, what ingredient was missing. Yeah. And maybe it's not because you didn't do it well. It's because maybe some of the other branches were missing. So we've managed to use that metaphor throughout this whole Equipcast, the tree metaphor. But I think it served us well.
Well, and so we're going to upload, we've got an image just to give you kind of like a visual here. Yeah, just a tree where you can, it's like a cross section where you can see, this beautiful fruit that everybody wants. It's kind of surrounded by these leaves of best practice, but the structure in the trunk and the branches of the tree and the roots, which are, culture and leadership and vision, just a kind of a picture of that metaphor. We'll put that on the blog website, in the show notes.
Yep, that's equip.archomaha.org, and you can subscribe to our blog there and share that with your other leaders in your parish for sure. If you're pastor, if you want, every week I'll be, if we're going to keep doing these webcasts, I'll just send our subscribers an email and say, here's how you register. We don't want to do the URLs public anymore, so we kind of want to keep those just through emails.
And we're official on Apple Podcasts, aren't we now?
Yes, we're official. We want to thank David Hazen from our communications office. It's not really an office; it's his office. He's our manager of communications for the Archdiocese of Omaha, David Hazen, and he got us hooked up to basically turn the audio of these into podcasts. So right now, I believe it's on the Apple platform. I've been looking on my Android platform. I have not been able to find the Equipcast. I'll keep looking. I'm not sure how it all works, but Apple did approve it last week. And so if you don't want to have to watch and look at our ugly faces, do it live, then you don't have to do that. You can go ahead and just subscribe to the podcast. But we are live. We want to do these live because I think the chats have really enriched our conversation about movies, and just as we think, and they're fun, Christine says. So and it's fun to have everybody tune in. And as much as my ego might be hurt, like if I see people leave, like I said something and then I see somebody exit the webcast, even if there's just a little bit of a crowd, it's just fun to talk about these things. And it's extremely important that we we keep talking about what is it going to look like for us here in the Archdiocese of Omaha, in our wildest dreams, that the church would be one church. We'd all be working together that we'd be encountering Jesus, helping others to encounter the life-transforming encounter with Jesus, and we'd be equipping disciples, that those people in the pews, our best resources, are the best stewardship we could ever practice is the people in those pews who are living out the mission and transforming neighborhoods and families and then living mercy and just being Jesus on the street. So that's what this is all about. And so there's a lots of different layers and pieces to it, but that's why we want to keep talking about it, because we're going to keep talking about the preferred fruit we want to see in this archdiocese, in this church in Northeast Nebraska. Not because it's my desire. The Archbishop says over and over again, the vision was the work of the Holy Spirit, because it's biblical. It's not like it was we just kind of made it up. It's like, just read the Bible, and God put it in our hearts, and He put it in the hearts of the people to say, this is what this church could be, and let the Holy Spirit move it. So that's how we want to keep doing it. So keep tuning in. We'll be here next week, same time, 3:30. I am actually, this is a best practice, is to tease out your next episode, and I don't know what the next episode is.
We're talking about, I believe we're talking about Ewoks and different things. I think we're focusing on.
Right, we're going to do movie reviews, because that's so important. How movies relate to our lives.
Yeah, clearly we are not afraid of controversy, willing to go after Ewoks. So you can trust our integrity. Yeah,
so best practice is to mention what we're going to do next. I don't know what it is. I just know what we're going to be here, and I know it's going to be pretty good.
We're talking about delegation and raising up leaders. So if you were one of those people, you're like, crap, it's all on me. Okay, we'll talk about how you fix that next time. How do you delegate, and how do you raise up leaders?
All right. And again, if you don't want to tune in and watch the live, you can catch us on equip.archomaha.org, or you can subscribe to our podcast on the Apple Podcast platform. God bless, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.